Going to call to order the April 16th Park Trails and Lakes Commission regular meeting. And we'll first start by welcoming back Karen Moorhead to the commission. It's good to have you.
Happy to be here.
And then we will do roll call. Jamie, can you help with that?
Jack McKenzie.
Here.
Terry Steenblock.
Here.
Doug Ramseth.
Here.
Tim Miller.
Here.
Jason Steenblock.
Here.
Tim Gary.
Here.
Karen Moorhead.
Here.
All right. Then we are looking for an approval of the agenda for tonight.
So moved.
I'd like to make an addition to the agenda if we could. At the very end, let's call it 8. No, let's slip it in between 8 and 9. A request to consider changing the time of starting of the meeting from 6 o'clock to 5 in the evening.
So the regular agenda item 5G.
Yeah, we can do that.
Oh, you want to put it up at 5G?
Yeah.
Okay. Can we also make one more amendment to the agenda and take 5D, the St. Clair Books Parkland dedication, and move that down to 5G, and then make, or 5H, sorry.
And if we wanted to start with a new motion with those items in there, that would be great.
Do you want to make another motion, or?
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
Okay.
A
Do we have-
second.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Just on the change of date, is that for a number of meetings or just the one meeting?
Hopefully that would be forever.
For the, okay,
5 o'clock.
great, thank you.
And we can have discussion about that.
Well, it used to be that way in the summer so that we could attend park and, Arts in the Park,
Yeah.
so that's not a surprise.
All right. Any other discussion? Hearing no other discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? And abstain. All right. So now we move on to the open forum. Do we have a guest here this evening?
No one for the open forum. They're here for the agenda.
Okay. All right. Well, then we will move on to the regular agenda. 5A was the approval of the meeting minutes from our March 19th meeting. Do we have a motion for approval of those meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion for the March 19th meeting minutes.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the March 19th, 2019 meeting minutes. Any discussion on that? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And abstain.
One.
Aye.
All right. Motion carries. We'll move on to the commission committee appointments.
Chair and members of the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission, in the agenda packet for this evening is an updated commissioner committee assignments. This was updated to reflect just some recent changes in the commission members appointed to our Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission. With that, you'll see some of the categories do have a third member now to just equally distribute commissioners amongst the different categories that we have. That was really taken into consideration with some of the groups and committees do require a little bit more work. For example, programs and events, capital improvements is quite a bit of work, and we have a couple agreements that expire at the end of this year. So with that, I'm just looking for approval this evening of the updated commission appointments. And just a reminder, these subcommittees are just formed to help facilitate some of the additional work in smaller groups between monthly meetings so that we can be a little more efficient in moving some projects forward. It's not a requirement amongst Parks Commission members, but it's just as your schedule allows and you're able to work on a team like that. So with that, looking for approval for the updated commissioner committee assignments.
Move approval?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this?
How soon can we get going with our committees? I've got a real busy summer, and I'd like to move forward, especially with the agreements.
Well, tax season is over, so I'm available.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Just a quick comment, some groups have already been engaged in activities, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And if you haven't yet, this other group, I know maintenance agreements is coming up now between now and May, so you'll be expecting to hear from me immediately following this meeting tonight, and we can get moving.
Maintenance agreements for the golf course or for the Fenway?
For both.
Okay.
And in addition to that, there's a maintenance and improvements subcommittee. So some items for that, I think they might update you later, but just talk about surfacing at parks and park tours and things like that. So that I expect to happen between now and next meeting.
Okay. What about a P&L for the Fenway Park?
We can
Do you have
we can
information
review
about
that. Yep.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Karen, we'll take the vote and then I'll give a little background. So we had a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this one? Hearing no other discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? And abstain? Motion carries. So Karen, on these, one of the things we did too is, as the city council looks at doing their strategic planning, we did a session with community feedback where we requested community feedback, and then all of us put in ideas that we had as well. So those have all been gathered and put into the top 2 choices of each of us on the committee here. But we need to take that to the next step once the city council approves and completes their strategic planning. Then we'll go back and we'll take a look at that. And then the goal is to try to categorize those priorities under these particular groupings, and then look at being able to complete that work as they fall under these categories and the priorities of them. So we do have a spreadsheet that we created with all of the ideas and which bucket they fell into, and you'll be able to sort that. So if you're on one of these groups and you want to know what was actually there, you can sort it within the spreadsheet as well. But more to come on prioritization and the strategic planning, just to make sure that that aligns with what city council's doing. So just wanted to give you some of that background. All right, so next on the agenda is the Third Lakes Estates Parkland dedication. And that was Donovan.
Could you send my video, please?
I'm just looking here. There it is.
Chair and members of the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission, I'd like to present the staff recommendation for the Parkland dedication fee which is a recommendation to City Council by the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission. This is for the Third Lake Estates proposed development. It went through preliminary city approval last spring and is applied for final plating, final PUD approval coming up in May at the Planning Commission and City Council. And so the property itself is located here just off of, can zero in, as you can imagine, off Third Lake, off 224th Street. The owner and applicant, Dave Madison, is here. And Dave also lives in a home right here. And the project is on this property as well as the one that's outlined in green there. It's 10 acres, and basically it's a single cul-de-sac coming off of 224th Street, which you can see here. And the property, I'll jump back to the aerial, it's about, I believe, 17 acres?
Yeah, it's about 13 total.
13 acres.
Wetlands and
Yeah, but you can see in the rear part how the yellow indicates the rough wetland boundary. So it does limit how many lots that can be accommodated on this property. And so in this case, it does appear that it'd be somewhat infeasible to require a land dedication. So the staff recommendation is is a $25,000 cash payment in lieu of a land dedication. Be happy to take any questions from the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission.
Any questions on this one?
Looks pretty straightforward to me. It's fine.
Is there a map that shows where our projected next park is going to be in that area?
Well, I have the, just coincidentally, I have the, what was in the 2040 master plan, which does show a potential, improvement, an upgrade or expansion to existing facilities in this area. The property, the project location is just a little bit east of there. As you can see, right here is where Third Lake Estates is proposed. And that blue, circle represents the expansion of a facility. And it's little ways, Cooling Camp is a little ways north, I guess northeast of that.
So we really don't have a park near there.
Correct. It's not so far from the boat landing, the DNR boat landing.
Are there any other potential developments projected in the area?
The latest comp plan does include an extension of the city infrastructure, meaning, in this case, public sewer. Let me turn off the wetlands layer. North of, in this area up here, there's been development proposed here, and that's still kind of outstanding, around, could get 22 lots or so on this parcel. And that could continue north conceivably. I've had a couple inquiries related to properties like this, and the comp plan does envision extension of sewer up there. That's the nearest I can say, and that's still, it's probably a good half mile, for the project area, which is down here.
Don, where did you say the cooling camp is on this map?
This area here.
That's
in green.
cooling camp there?
Yeah.
Okay. And then this project is?
Is southeast, right down here. My map is slow to load. Right there.
So drive time probably is a mile?
Correct, yeah. Yeah. As a crow flies, about half a mile.
Okay.
And Donovan, how many lots are there?
These are 10 with the.
Okay, thank you.
Are they standard size lots? Are they, what?
It is a PUD. So the right of way is nearer, and the lots are.
Park Circle.
If I pull up that info, it's been a while since I've looked at it, but it's 25,000 square feet is the minimum for this area, and there are 4 lots, these 4 that are a little below that. They're in the 23,000 square foot range, which is about half acre. So they're not, it's less than 25, but still somewhat substantial. And then the size range is up much larger to include wetland areas.
Is that off the North Shore Trail? Is that off the North Shore Trail? I'm trying to get my bearings.
It's actually, it's 224th Street is this street right here between Inman and Irish.
Oh, okay.
So it's currently vacant. It's kind of a little hill area, looks like a grapevine.
Yeah, you might have grapevines planted there.
It's an agricultural use.
Venting, yeah.
I almost feel like based on the size of the lots and the total acreage, it almost makes, I don't know where we would, if we took a park or land in exchange in lieu of the money, I don't know realistically where that would fit.
I think money's a better way to go.
I think the money is the better way to go too, because it's the lot size for the homes, and Cooling Camp isn't that far away.
Right.
Yes, I hadn't seen Cooling Camp on the map. That really neat key that is in here. And that addresses my concern that there wasn't a park very close by.
Okay.
So do we have a motion on this one?
I'll make a motion to accept the parkland dedication funds for this development.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Do we want to clarify that it's for the Third Lake Estates in the amount of $25,000? Would you accept a friendly agreement?
Yep.
Who seconded that?
Second.
Will you second?
Sure.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to accept park dedication fees in the amount of $25,000 for the Third Lake Estates. Any, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries on that one.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Yep, have a good evening.
You look forward to seeing your development.
Yeah, I am too.
So Jamie, I noticed that we had a guest that arrived. Do we have a minute to do open forum real quick?
Yeah, just want to speak. Sure. That's okay.
Is that all right? Yeah, yep,
Absolutely.
thank you.
My name is Keely. I work with Conservation Minnesota in the East Metro, and I just wanted to come and introduce myself and kind of hear what you guys have going on at the commission. We held a environmental commission conference this last weekend where we brought a few different commissioners together, and it was a pretty big success. People seemed to really like to bounce ideas off of each other and see what different commissions were up to and kind of troubleshoot what some commissions are having trouble with and gaining some insight from other ones who have accomplished some of that stuff. So if you have any questions of us, I'm happy to kind of be a connector for you guys with other commissions, and we're working on possibly doing some sort of open communication between commissions and setting that up so everyone can share ideas. But I just wanted to introduce myself, and Jamie has my contact information, but I'll leave a few cards with her. And I just wanted to say hello and thank you guys for the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You were there, Jack?
I was there.
Yeah.
It was an excellent group, and the art was spectacular.
Thank you for representing our commission here from Forest Lake.
You are very welcome.
Appreciate that.
So do we want to skip to the 2040 comp plan revisions? Is that all right?
Yep, that would be next on the agenda. Thank you very much. Per the amended agenda, we are skipping that and moving that towards the end. So we are on the 2040 comp plan. So Commissioners, this evening with the 2040 comp plan, I will introduce this here and turn it over to our zoning administrator, Donovan Hart. But you did receive some updated language added to our Parks and Trails chapter, and this was brought forward from Bolton and Mank, who was working with the city on our 2040 comp plan, that we were just missing some language that is required as part of the requirements of submitting a comp plan. So because we're aware of this now, we have the opportunity to address it before it goes to final approvals and review. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Donovan Hart here, and he will kind of walk you through the language that was added by Bolton and Mank and looking for feedback and hopefully approval tonight on what was added. So with that, turn it over to Mr. Hart.
All right, thank you, Jamie. Chair and Parks and Trails and Lakes Commission, I'd like to kind of begin this, well, first an overview. As Jamie mentioned, we did receive some feedback from our consultant who's assisting with this Parks and Trails chapter for the comp plan update. And in your packet, there was some, I believe it's 4 paragraphs that were highlighted as additional text, as well as an amended proposed trails and parks map. And I have to apologize for not providing more information with the packet for kind of a little more descriptive of where we're going. I think I kind of ran out of time, so I'd like to provide a little more rationale for what's in the text. And really the bulk of this relates to, amending that existing and proposed Parks and Trails map. And the story kind of begins with that 2014 master plan that shows potential places of future neighborhood parks. That's those identified by F with these kind of purple rings. We have them in the southwest quadrant, an area off Harrow Avenue. Here, kind of midpoint south of Third Lake, and then upper northwest area of the city. And looking at where potential future parks could be, it's somewhat an exercise in where they cannot be, just due to where we expect residential development to occur based on the zoning and development patterns, and where city infrastructure is expected to be extended by 2040. And so I've taken this is the future land use map here is a base map. I'll show you this large purple area is a future land use of highway business, which was envisioned that, if there was an interstate exchange down here off 35E down at 180th Street. So in seeing that's not a great candidate for a park within that area, I drew a green line to kind of exclude that area, as well as getting over here on the east side of Highway 61. If you follow the cursor, there's many areas where it's not too far off here that the city is proposing to not extend city water and sewer to this area by 2040 in the staging plan. So this area was excluded over here, and then also this area here related to the this is a business park zoning, which would be more like your R&D or kind of corporate campus. That's what's envisioned for the gray area. Also not, I think, a great area for a park. And so then we're moving more toward the future residential areas that are planned. Over here, this is Harrow Avenue here, and then just east of Harrow is the eastward extension of city services proposed by 2040, and also following this. And we can see how we filled in the map here with Chestnut Creek, and currently there is a sewer infrastructure capacity issue that's on the city side, but that once some pieces get filled in, then this whole area could be open for development. And so that's kind of looking at, within this bounded area, what could be the location of future parks. And again, looking, using this 2014 plan is kind of as a template, looking at how, let me get then looking at the where these red circles are identified as potential future parks. And this is really kind of the big piece I'd like for Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission to review. And so again, here's Harrow Avenue here. This is in the area of Chestnut Creek, which aligns with that future park area from the 2014 plan. And this is also an area where future residential is proposed. Then Also here, this also aligns with that plan, with the idea that, you know, there will be a large residential area here in the next 20 years. And then two other areas that are, you know, put in for more geographic dispersion of park features. And there isn't, I believe, a lot of residential development proposed or planned for these areas, because city services aren't extended out here, but we have a circle up here in that extreme northwest corner, and then also, you know, south of Third Lake. Just to provide more of that, you know, serving different populations, perhaps they serve different demographics, you know, different audiences, different recreational opportunities. And finally, one of the feedback we had from the city of Hugo was that they had a trail coming up just west of what we call Fenway Avenue, which is basically here on the, this is the Hugo existing and proposed trail map for their recently adopted comp plan, and they show this trail leading up to here, which, you know, potentially could be linked to a city trail. And so I thought it'd be a good idea to include that, not because we know, you know, where that's going to have any idea really where that's going to be, but if we're planning 20 years in the future and that we're expecting development in this area, well, let's keep an eye out for when properties redevelop. How can we accommodate a trail that'll match up with that Hugo trail, and perhaps be more curvilinear than we find. You know, this, you know, what we have here for the proposed trail, which is, you know, been in the drafts you've reviewed before, where these trails basically follow the roads. And they look like they were designed by an engineer, and pretty much they were. I mean, but this is what we can expect to happen, and, you know, these roads be improved, you know, in the next 20 years. But also I see another opportunity with a trail that could be more recreational trail, curvier, is it serves a different it serves more of a recreational purpose, where, you know, a trail along a road, you know, can be one that links destinations, you know, home to school, to work, or to a park, perhaps, where this one could, you know, have more of that leisure, but still obviously go from point A to point B. What I've pictured here, this is Headwaters Parkway, a future extension of it, you know, down to, you know, a southern border of the city. And this is also, could be a link to what we have also on one of the, within the text, the regional parks and trails section. Right now, the Washington County has a search corridor, a proposed trail on County Road 4, the Glacial Hills Trail. And potentially, you know, that could you know, go on, you know, from basically from just south of Big Marine Park along County Road 4 to the Harbor Creek Trail, and then you know, come up and potentially be a loop if there's segments created along County Road 50 or 202nd Street. This could be a large loop. But similarly, if that Glacier Hills Trail continue on County Road 4 west of Highway 61 down to this area, you know, that could be another loop, you know, creating if this, you know, trail was created, go up to, you know, Headwaters and back to the Harbor Creek Trail. So I believe there's some opportunities there. And before we move, you know, back into the text, I'd like to get your feedback on this and maybe spur some discussion on you know, what do you think about this, and if we could, you all, you know, if you want to comment on this, I'll pause.
I just have a question. That upper red circle to the left, is that the Bixby Park area? Or where is the commission on the Bixby Park?
Bixby is here.
Okay.
And obviously it serves that use. I mean, a lot of it is just simply wetlands or that kind of water recharge area that the big Comfort Lake, Forest Lake stormwater quality project. But could that, could this be moved here and Bixby have a larger role? Is that?
Well, that,
how you're
I just
thinking, or?
remember that it was more of a
It's
nature
over
thing,
here.
not a playground kind of park,
This way.
but a nature park. And I didn't know with that red circle if, could be incorporated into both, but I just wondered where it was.
It could be, yeah. I think the goal now is just to identify areas where the parks would be. And, we don't know what purpose it would serve then. There might be, completely different, I can't say I'm wise enough to, or my crystal ball is clear enough to identify what it would be, but in this area, where city water and sewer is planned to be extended doesn't include this area. So maybe a more, less intensive development of a park, maybe that would be more appropriate up there. But it just seemed like, there's nothing else in this, part of the city. So that geographic dispersion seemed important.
I certainly like the line of thinking for a more recreational trail. I think that's important. And lining it up with other communities around us is, I think, as important. So I like that track that you're going down.
I like it too, except if we're waiting for roads to be rebuilt before we do some of these trails, it'll be 2040 before we get going on some of these things. So currently, I don't know of a trail in Forest Lake that is a loop. They all either end someplace, or you have to backtrack, or if you have the Hardwood Creek Trail, you go until you drop and then you turn around. So it'd be nice to have the opportunity for a loop someplace and to get one going.
Mm-hmm.
So are there opportunities that you see for our near future trail extension or a loop?
Well, near future, I can't say. It really is the way the city policy has been set up so far. It does relate to these come when development comes. The one exception of that, but I still think it's definitely not immediate, is something, one you did see before, this has been in the plan from last July, was this one that, which, potentially could be that loop, but it also involves, big sections along, a state road, as well as trying to accommodate within pretty tight right-of-way within, on North Shore Trail. We are planned to have, this small extension built this summer. That was something that was envisioned back in 2006 as part of the Regional Headwaters concept plan. So I'm happy to say that, I think that'll get completed when the housing development infrastructure is built there this summer. The Headwaters Place project, it's called. And I don't know. I mean, I think there's some language in the text there that it's, we want to encourage these, feeder trails to the Hardwood Creek Trail. And I can imagine some of these, maybe some of those could be knit together.
Right, I know 11th Avenue is scheduled to be rebuilt.
Correct, and that's going to include a trail, but it's more of a functional trail.
Yeah, it's just another straight line.
Yeah, but that's expected within the next 3-4 years.
Kind of to go on that comment and going back to our groups and committees, I think coming up here in the near future is capital improvement planning, and just with the strategic planning taking place and new leadership, I think we're going to really look at our capital improvement projects, more of a wish list and what we really need, and I think then we can look at the justification for those requests, and then see how we can potentially identify resources to align with those projects. So I do have a updated 2019 pedestrian trails map from our city engineer that does include all routes or trails, whether it's sidewalks, bituminous, gravel, or one other means. But I have an updated map on that, and I think if we take a closer look at there, maybe we can identify some smaller segments of trails that if we fill those in, potentially we'll have that looped connection. And I think that's a big part of the CIP planning. I think there's been a lot of conversation about the justification is there's a lot of demand and requests for trail development in the community, and I don't know the last time, other than like Donovan said, if it's a street improvement project, that's really the only time that the city's built additional trails. So I think that's a good CIP request, really identifying ways we can align resources to make some of these trail developments happen. And it might not be an immediate thing, but maybe sooner than 2040, if we put the vision together and start planning a funding source for that.
Good.
You know, and then there's one piece of it too. We held a workshop, a joint workshop with City Council, the EDA, and Planning Commission a few weeks ago, and focused on development. We had an organization called Minnesota Urban Land Institute, which is a chapter, a part of a national organization, and they seek to provide feedback to communities on how to promote sustainable communities, thriving development, and they one thing they really stress is that incoming residents or prospective residents, they want to know where the recreational opportunities are. It's really a big thing, whether you're an active senior or you're raising a young family. That these are things also too that really create that civic life that you really promote a strong Forest Lake. And when I think about the development that could occur in this southwest area, there are some large landowners, and it's really difficult to kind of lay out any kind of trail alignment when you don't know how things develop. You haven't done the kind of environmental work on where wetlands are. You haven't identified a buyer of a property, but we might see perhaps some of these in the future, some of these properties developed or some interest promoted because they could have access. They could have access to a regional trail like this, which you can imagine if you were if you were any many different types of people, from the avid bicyclist to the the person who may works at the Leela Headwaters campus, wanting to have access, be able to bike to work, for instance. So I'm kind of getting into, that's rather kind of a hopeful stance, but I think that the more we can, as a city, say that we want these kind of amenities and provide some place for them, the greater the chance that they won't be here by 2040.
I do think we need to seriously look at something, and whether that be in the CIP and the budgeting process, because when you looked at the community feedback, there was a lot of repeatable feedback on some type of trail and those connection points. So maybe it's a combination of both a trails map that they can see where existing connections are and how those line up, and whether that be the sidewalks and trails, but then also exploring some type of trail solution that provides.
And I think that's exactly where we're at with this. And I think once the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission identifies, what that main desire is, yep, it's really having that voice to the community, to the city council, to really advocate for starting somewhere with trail development. And I think that working alongside with them, developing a strategy, long-term strategy on a revenue source, whether that's starting a trail dedication fund, similar to a park dedication fund, that's just, maybe it's a new fee that the city imposes on developers if they, that there's a trail component, and that goes into a separate revenue bucket for trail development. So just figuring out that strategy, and I think that's where we're at with this, and the Parks Commission really has the opportunity to advocate for some trail development.
In the map that's up there now, that pink snaky line on the right, that's a snowmobile trail, isn't it?
Correct.
And having that groomed for bicycles, there isn't probably much competition between snowmobiles and bicycles. So maybe that's an opportunity.
Perhaps, I mean, there's some pretty intense wetlands through there, through the Harvard Creek.
Oh.
But that, what if it is a raised trail? I mean, that would be really expensive, but think about, I mean, one thing I'm jealous about is the Hugo has is that sort of, that trail along the Harvard Creek Trail. They have, this is the Harvard Creek Trail here, is the Hugo proposed trail map. They have parcels that could be developed along there, but then you go across the border and it's just large parcels. It's basically been carved up already, and we're not expecting to extend city sewer or city services there anytime soon. So what you describe actually could be that sort of that, as you said, like the snaky trail, providing that kind of recreational experience.
Donovan, this is a dumb question, but does the brown line on the Hugo map line up with the red line just above it on the Forest Lake?
The brown line.
That line right there?
Yeah, this is the Harvard Creek.
That lines up with the red line.
This is the Harvard, Harvard Creek Trail.
Okay.
And so this is that Glacial Hills Trail I mentioned, and it does end here. Potentially, it could go up to here and then, do that kind of loop, like I mentioned, potentially on the west of Fenway.
So that goes to there. Okay, thank you.
The reason, because of the way the properties are developed or have developed, I mean, there's really no potential to extend these further north. Kind of.
Maybe even on that snowmobile trail, that might be a DNR grant that we might be able to. There might be some kind of a grant out there that would be something that we could look at too.
Oh, certainly. The 202nd Street trail was built in part with DNR funds.
So you are looking for a vote from this committee to approve the changes to the changes that you've made here to the document, correct?
To the document as well as the text.
The text in the yellow and then the changes to the map.
Correct.
I think at our meeting last time we talked about, you set the stage for coming back and talking to us about the changes to the text, and I know we talked about the map and asked if you could add in a couple things, which you have added in on this one as well, so thank you. Do we have any more discussion on this one, or do we have a motion?
Well, I got one more piece of discussion here. Donovan, I'm not sure if it's the same document that you sent out. It was like page 4. And it was letter D. It was talking about the developer and paying a $2,000 fee. And I wasn't sure if that was a typo or if commercial pays less than the residential.
This was, it's 20,
It was kind of in the packet of information that you had.
yeah, I'm sorry.
I can get it up here.
Was that on one
Oh,
of the?
yeah. I don't, I think it was a typo. I think it's.
Here's the packet as well.
Page 4,
Letter D.
letter D.
I think he's talking about the top plan. Are you talking about the regional parks and trails section of the comp plan language?
Unfortunately, I was going through it. I don't know.
The parkland dedication requirements,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was $2,000, I recall that.
it's letter D in 1, amount of payment required.
There it is.
Oh, it's in, oh, I see.
Reference to that.
Yeah, so that is,
Dedication, right?
City code just needs to be updated.
it's a city code needs to be updated.
Okay, so,
So the ruling document here is this fee schedule, which gets, adopted every year, and the 2019 schedule of fees has a $2,500 cash payment for each residential unit.
okay, so this just wasn't updated, or was it a typo?
It's accurate to what the code says, but it's not the controlling document.
The city code indicates $2,500
Okay.
per unit, so the city code would be the document
The
that.
fee schedule.
Yeah,
Fee
the
schedule
fee
said,
schedule.
okay. Yeah.
But we're talking about two, that's in relation to the park dedication.
Right.
And this topic is in relation to the comp plan, right?
Correct.
So, but did that answer?
Okay, so
Your question
I
otherwise-
guess I'm unclear what the $2,000 was.
Oh, just what it is basically, when new residents come, new housing units are created, there's a demand made for parks.
Right.
And so, making sure that development pays its own way, the city has a couple of ways for development to pay for itself, to pay for the
Correct.
services it generates.
I
So
guess
it's
that's what I
either
was wondering.
through land or.
$2,000, is that just an outdated number, or? is it
Yes,
typo?
it's outdated number.
Okay,
We charge per the fee schedule $2,500 per
got it.
unit.
Okay.
So this, what you're looking at, the park land dedication requirements, this was just taken from city code, I believe.
Yeah.
So it just looks like that needs to city code on our website and just needs to be updated to reflect the approved 2019 fee schedule, which is $2,500 per unit. We follow the fee schedule. This, I'll make a note to get that updated. But that was a good thing to point out.
So looking at the 2040 comp plan revisions, do we have a motion or any further discussion on that one? Anybody want to make a motion to either accept or deny the changes?
Proposed changes in the 2040 comp plan.
A second.
2040.
What's that?
2040.
20.
Yeah, okay.
A second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this?
I'm pretty new at this, didn't, get involved too early enough to know, but it looks good, and if staff is looking over, and the emphasis on trails, I too would get constant confirmation from people that they really like trails. So I hear that the commission here is feeling that too, so.
And the red circles are potential future parks with lots of things that have to happen before anything would become.
Correct. And that's the designation for neighborhood parks. So it's not, the larger community parks or premier parks. It's, a neighborhood park.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion before we vote? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? And abstained. Motion carries. Okay, so that was the 2040. I gotta put all my papers in the right order here. Do we want to
Move on to the belts.
belts? Okay, so we have in our packet this evening a Belts Park survey, which I believe was.
Karen, would you bring your microphone down? So we can all hear you.
Which was a 15-point survey, so.
Page 26.
All right, so Chair and members of Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission, before you this evening on the agenda is the Belts Park Survey. These are questions that were put together by Bolton and Menk and put together to really solicit a variety of information from residents within the community. And as you see here, there are, I believe there are 15 questions added, listed here. And Bolton and Menk just would like to get some input from the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission and ultimately approval to move forward with the questions listed here. They recommended about the 12 to 15 questions is a good number of questions to have, just so that people don't get too wrapped up in too many questions and lose interest. From my review, I think this really does capture some good demographic information about who is taking the survey, so we can understand a little bit more about that, and also just their use of Belts Park or what would make them use the park. I think access, question number 6 about access is a good question to ask. And it also addresses some of the questions about parking that we have with with Belts Park. So with that, if you just looking for some discussion, if there's any questions that you would like to see removed, added, or changed, we're looking to get this to a final approval tonight so they can move forward with administrating the survey as we move forward in this project. With that, if you have any questions or open it up for discussion at this time.
Who's doing the survey?
Bolton and Menk will conduct the survey and administer it.
How are they gonna, I missed you say that, how are they gonna administer it? Is it at the park or is it?
I believe they're mailing it out. I don't know if it's within the whole community or within, I think, a certain mile or mile and a half radius of the park. But these are the questions that they would be providing.
So Jamie, like on question number 3, where they're looking for them to, they've got the different age ranges. So is the vision that this will be a survey and they'll be able to fill in a box that's where, like, they'll put 2 kids for the 0 to 4 range and?
Yes, I don't know the ins and if it's a electronic survey or paper survey, but they would have the opportunity to, if it's a paper survey, I'm assuming circle or check the box. If you're familiar with like SurveyMonkey, if it is a digital, you have the drop downs and opportunity to select the appropriate choice. But what you see here is what they would have as the options to select from.
And then I was wondering on question 7, does the park need more vehicle parking? One of the questions I was wondering is, does Bolton Menk have any experience when they have made substantial changes to another park of similar proportion where they would know what the estimated parking changes have been in similar situations where they could project that? Does that make any sense at all?
I believe so. You're just kind of wondering like the ratio of like maybe a park attendees to what's an appropriate number of parking stalls to accommodate the use of the park?
Yep, and if they've got any experience with other parks where they've made, potentially some substantial changes, how that changed the parking where, I'm not sure that asking residents, does the park need more vehicle parking? I'm not sure what they're trying to accomplish because people might say yes, but then how are they, because if we end up working with St. Peter's, for example, I would assume we're gonna have to go to St. Peter's and say, we need X number of spots. So it would be.
So maybe restructuring how that's worded, are you, maybe to something, do you think there's adequate parking at Belts Park or something, I think, rewording that a little bit?
Jamie, I was just kind of wondering if they would do this questionnaire, like say during a softball game, where you really have a need for more parking because you got little kids running across 11th Avenue and South Shore. But the general people that live along South Shore any given night would go, well, there's plenty of parking along the street, but it's only during those times when you'd have softball games that there is absolutely pretty tough to find parking.
Yeah, and I think from a Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission standpoint, I think we've identified that there is limited parking, so maybe we already know that, and it's not a question we really need to dive into so much, that we know that there's parking challenges. There's parking on the street and that's limited, and we don't have a parking lot. So I think it is a pretty known challenge, and I don't know if that's just their way to solicit a little feedback and have the data collected to kind of support that the justification piece of there is limited parking and we need more, and if they have data collected in a survey, it helps justify the need for the additional parking request. So maybe that's their objective in that of putting it as a survey question, but it seems like maybe we need to rethink how that's worded potentially.
I wonder why it needs to be asked here. I mean, the bottom line is, we already see that there's a parking issue there, and I would be looking for them, if this is their area of expertise, I would be looking for them to establish a strategy on what parking would look like to accommodate a park of this caliber and these changes.
And I think that they will be able to, we haven't had that conversation, but I think they're just trying to develop a survey to get some data collected to stand behind why there's a agreement or why we're looking at the parking in this concept plan. But I think if you want to scratch that question, we certainly could.
Karen?
Well, Tim and I both living in that area know the problem with the parking, but the people that live on 11th, even though there's a park lane, for them now, they see the danger of kids running across that. And so I think that particular park is a very unique situation for parking. There's definitely a need for other parking. They park down streets. It's just when you try to go out of the streets, you can't see because there's so many cars. So I mean, I think it hedges onto the more dangerous situation that we would have to be looking for something to alleviate some of that mess on the streets.
Well, then going along with that too, Karen, is that, so you have most of these ball games that are starting about 6 o'clock as the sun comes right down 11th Avenue.
Right.
So you just don't see anybody, you
Yeah.
know? And I guess my thought is that, and I don't know, I'm not gonna tell Bolton and Mink how to do their survey, but if you've got two fields with two teams, so you're gonna have at least 12 kids on the side, maybe 15. If they all come in an individual car, that's 60 cars, and you just don't have the parking for that.
And, excuse me, but further back again, there was an agreement with St. Peter's to you, because they, for years before they had their own park, would use the city park for their school. And so it was kind of a compromise where, you know, we use that park and then we would allow a certain number of parking spaces. But we all know parking lots cost a lot. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think they were willing to just say, you know, you can use how many on a certain day. That would have to be agreed upon again.
And that is, I do have a meeting set as part of when we looked at the Belts Park master plan list of activities that Bolton and Mink would help facilitate. One of them is a meeting with St. Peter's, okay. And that is scheduled for April 24th at 11 o'clock. So we will be meeting with them, and I'm optimistic to have some shared use agreement with parking, or, you know, hopeful in that conversation. It might have some cost to Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission to consider, but I think that alleviates, you know, having to incorporate parking into the development in our space of the park. And so that will be coming up soon. Again, I think that if we want to eliminate that question and focus more on park amenities and what people are looking for within that, so that Bolton and Mink has a better vision from this survey. And this is just one of the many things that will happen in this process to make sure that we're hitting the nail on the head with the amenities we're proposing in a concept plan. So I think this is just a starting point to collect the data around the demographics in that general area.
And they are asking about the safety issues. They are asking about, you know, amenities for that particular park. So I feel like, why ask them number 7? We already know it's a problem.
Yep, I agree. I think we can just scratch that if you guys want to do with that.
If they don't need proof later on to show people that in the survey, you know, they're all going to say yes, anybody that's been in there. Does Bolton Mink need an affirmation when they go out to put a plan together? We had to do this because there has been real feedback from people. That would be the only reason I think it'd be in there.
Yeah, and I agree with that. If we have to go back to say, you know, maybe there is a partnership opportunity, or we do have a cost associated with a parking improvement or enhancement or whatever that might look like, then this could just be their data collection part of that to say this is why, you know, that's the why we have this cost, or this why we're doing this. I agree if you want to maybe restructure how it's worded. It's does the park need more vehicle parking?
Kind of leading with the
Yeah,
question too.
exactly.
Right, so
Yeah.
maybe restructuring that and I can work with them on that.
Yeah, that's what they're going
Please say
for.
yes.
And then
It is
number
a simple
9
yes and no question. Do you think we need more parking or not? Yes or no? And it could be an overwhelmingly yes.
Yep. Number 9 is another one I wonder why it's on here. So the survey is in relation to Belts Park, but number 9, which is kind of in the middle of the survey, if you do not use Belts Park, which Forest Lake Park location do you use? I think if we're trying to figure out what parks people use, then maybe we ask that in another survey, but remove it from here because this is related to Belts Park.
Right.
And if they don't use the park,
Then they don't.
then they don't, yeah.
That's a good catch, because I think that does throw it off.
On question 13, if we were going to honor the fact of the kids in the high school that started this, they were very interested in a study place and some place where they could, charge phones, have their laptops, do some homework. There isn't anything in here like that. And so if we could add a piece about that, if it's I guess I don't know how to describe it other than a building for suitable for studying and congregating after school.
Would that be kind of related to number 11 and maybe a pavilion? Would you support improvements to the restroom / warming house structure?
Well, if we called it something different than a warming house, because that's not what they're,
I think that it was more of like a community pavilion or something like that where it could host studying, family gatherings, birthday parties, whatever it might be. So I think something along those lines, a community pavilion or
Could
that
you
provided the
adjust
space.
11 though to say something like, would you support improvements such as a community pavilion? Because wouldn't the pavilion potentially have restrooms?
well, a pavilion may
Indoor, outdoor
sound to me,
pavilion.
sound like an outdoor,
An open,
Yeah.
open structure, and that's not what we were talking about.
Como Park is a pavilion.
Yeah,
It's open.
you're right, yeah.
Did Bolton and Mink consider the high school's survey?
They did not consider it, no. I
Okay.
didn't provide it to them and just this focuses more on collecting demographic information from anybody in the community. I don't know if they're distributing it to everybody or within that radius, but I think that the students one was more focused on the high school population only for taking the survey and more on amenities of the park.
Could that be communicated in the letter of introduction that, because we don't want to diss the kids. They put a lot of effort
Right.
into their survey and all of a sudden the adults are coming up with their own survey and now we're left out of the picture. And if that was just addressed in a sentence that, the kids have done a survey and this will be, the final product will be a marriage of the surveys and
I think
we're
you're
taking
right.
everybody into account.
So if we want to table this tonight, then I can take that step, combine surveys and revisit a couple of these that we've talked about tonight and come back to the next meeting with a final
Is it
version.
combining the surveys, Jack, or is
Well,
it?
Addressing it.
Acknowledging that the
Yeah.
kids did this on their own and really put a lot of effort into it.
Right.
Do you have their survey by any chance that you could pull up?
Probably not, let me see if I can.
I just was wondering if these questions
Let me see.
attack what they were asking, just maybe tweaked a little bit. If it does, then if it hits that, then we could at least make a decision tonight instead of having to bring it back, but.
Time flies.
One question I do have on the study room or
Yeah.
building. So would that have to be locked at night or would that have to be staffed? If it's gonna be a closed building? That's what I'm not
You'd
sure about.
probably have to lock it at night.
Yeah.
They were looking for a destination, something they
Yes.
could call their own, a place to hang out, something that had Wi-Fi connections. And, locking it would certainly not serve the purpose, but can you get away with not?
Depends on what time.
Yeah.
It's kind of like our
Lakeside.
we have to lock it. We have stuff in there and
Yeah,
You wouldn't want an
we
all-night
help, we
party.
staff,
yeah.
they staff the warming houses. So it's almost like we would be doing, it would be another place to staff,
Another layer,
another layer.
yeah.
Or at least a requirement to lock it at some point.
So a compromise comes up and, well, you know what, we provided Wi-Fi here and there's, you've got connectivity, but it's an open air pavilion.
Yeah.
And we're
Yep.
trying
Yep.
to accommodate all the requirements without adding another layer to
Right.
the management.
So this is the Belts Park survey and provided by the Forest Lake Student PAC. So they started with what grade are you in?
They issued this to the students already.
Student body.
So,
Yeah.
right?
So we could evaluate both, take both of them into consideration in the concept plan. I think the Bolton and Mank one is more of a broad
Yep.
survey. So what city do you live in? So I did collect some background demographic information. Do you participate in any of the following sports? Approximately how frequently do you visit the park during the warm, and then the next question, cold months? So that is similar to question number 5 from Bolton and Mank. What seasons do you visit the park? Do you think you would be more likely to visit Belts Park if the renovation occurs? On each visit, how often would you use? And then the following, they list all the different items that they propose. So a multi-purpose facility, so they call it a gathering space with Wi-Fi and stage platform is kind of how they define that, Doug.
Without, it's pretty, they want it for homework and things like that. Well, homework is in cooler periods of the year, so if it's an open pavilion, it's probably not going to suit all of their needs all of the time. So,
Especially in the winter when there's less to do.
They do point out in their question that it's, can you go back up to that, Jamie? It says it's roofed, encased. I guess you could read that in a couple different lights.
Not
I mean,
encased, I think that's
doesn't-
inside.
I mean, does it have to have carpet and couches and, you know?
You know, I guess
thinking
I'm not so interested in what the final outcome is yet. I just want to acknowledge that the kids went
Yeah.
all through all this work and, hey, kids, you know what? You got the ball rolling here. This is fantastic. Now the adults are going to have to take a look at it. So
Yeah.
acknowledge everybody and let's keep moving forward.
And I have been in communication with the group as I've had updates. So I've shared with them the success of the Belts Park Master Plan but quote from Bolton and Mank that got approved and is now funded. I mean, they've really kickstarted all of that, and I've acknowledged them and encouraged them that that's a big success for them in this story. They have seen the outline of things that we are doing, which did include a survey with Bolton and Mank, so they are aware of that, but I agree to continue to keep them involved in this, and I have had those communications offline here, keeping them informed of where we're at with the process and sharing the success with them as well. So
Great.
I think if we can continue that, they know that we are in this step right here, and that hopefully we'll be reconnecting with them before our May meeting as well.
I think
it is extremely important.
You pulling this up helped me greatly, because I think what we have here is they have already done a survey. They've done it to the students. This is a community survey, so the two surveys can work together.
Right.
So I would make a recommendation that, I'm going to make a motion that we approve the Belts Park survey with the adjustment of question 7 and the removal of question 9. And then we use the results of this survey in conjunction with the survey that the students did as part of the Belts restructuring project.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Were we keeping question 12 in there? Did we assume that there was already safety issues?
No, excuse me, I would say keep it in there because there are some that maybe we don't know of that others could point out.
Okay.
I have one question about 13J. I don't know what a multi-purpose trail is? And does anybody know what that is?
I
I
believe
was
they're
assuming
referring
that-
to, sorry, go ahead, did you want to?
I was just gonna say, I was assuming it's like the one they have in Columbia or Columbus Township, where it's like a track around the outside of the park that could be used for walking or rollerblading.
Okay.
Um,
One of the things they didn't include was that challenge course, too. But that was in the students one, so I guess that's okay. I'm good.
And
One last bit of confusion for me. Question number 2. You live within a half-mile of Belts Park. Yes, no, but I live in Forest Lake. No, but I don't, or I live outside of Forest Lake. Doesn't question 1 already answer that? I mean, we could just say yes or no, I would think, in that sense. Very
Correct.
small, I know.
That is a
Yeah,
good point.
That's a great point.
It's a
Just
technical,
confused me, so.
you know, if you're confused, then others will probably, could be confused too, so.
Are you saying take out C?
I'm taking out C and just say no, and take out, but I lived in Forest Lake, or live in Forest Lake at all, because we're gonna know that by question 1.
Right.
So I just,
Yep.
in brevity and things like that, I just.
One of those you're trying to make sure they didn't lie about anything. We're going to ask it in a different way.
We're gonna get it.
On the fact that you said that they're going to send it to people who live within a mile of it, Bells is a community park, and so that's a citywide park. I think I don't live within a mile of it, but I go there.
Don't quote me on that. I will verify with them their plan for distribution and follow up with the commission on that, as long as we're comfortable with the survey questions so they can continue that. And then I'll follow up on the distribution. I should have clarified. I just don't know if it's a certain radius within the park or the whole community. So I will get that answer confirmed tomorrow and follow up with you.
So we have an adjustment to the motion, which is to take 2 and eliminate C and make B only no. And I would accept that amendment.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so who seconded it? Do you second that?
I did. Second.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries on that one. So, Jamie, can we go back to 5D, which we moved down to 5? Actually, we're right there, because we moved that down to 5F, so, which is the St. Clair Books Parkland dedication.
So Chair and Parks, Trails and Lakes Commission members, I'm going to turn this one over to Donovan Hart this evening to discuss with you the St. Clair Brooks Parkland dedication requirement that is on our agenda this evening.
Thank you, Jamie. If you recall, at the last meeting, as a discussion item, the commission discussed the parkland dedication fee requirements in general, and in particular for the St. Clair Brooks project, which is 17 lot residential subdivision that's in concept plan review before the city. As part of that review, there's a recommendation required from the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission on how the project will satisfy the parkland dedication requirement. And I'll just provide kind of the first, well, I guess actually let's look at kind of the location of it is off, Fenway here, south of Headwaters Parkway and west of Highway 61 here on the northwest corner of the Tanner's Brook Golf Course. And with homes envisioned here on this north side and then here on the southern leg of another separate road drawn here. So you can see there's one road here envisioned and one road here, both with temporary cul-de-sacs. What I included in your packet was the simple staff recommendation to accept the cash. I did get a email from the chair looking for more information and wanting to address potential trail along that east side of Fenway. I do you know, and this is similar to the Third Lake Estates project we just reviewed, that somewhat limited as far as land. There are 2 outlots. These are largely wetland areas, so we can expect those to be somewhat prohibited as far as impacting those wetlands and providing any kind of area for recreation. Similarly, if turning on the wetland layer on the map here, this is kind of exactly, here's Fenway. We can see that this mode area is, and this is the wetland area in the outlot. At the end of the temporary cul-de-sac, that if a trail was constructed, a more a recreational trail, with some land dedication involved, you'd be impacting more wetlands. As a part of a city requirement, there would be a trail along here as well as sidewalks on along these roads to provide some pedestrian and bike facility. But my reasoning on making the recommendation to accept the fee in lieu of the land dedication is that we are looking at pretty limited space all along Fenway, where the place where I can imagine you'd put kind of more of an enhanced trail, kind of a meandering thing. Also, there are high utility lines through here too, so it makes it, I think, a little less desirable to make a more recreational use of that. But though, of course, if the trail is there, people will use it. Enhanced trail. But meanwhile, as a requirement for subdivision, the city would require the basic 10-foot by 2 minutes trail along there. Does that address some of your questions, Terry?
Yep, thank you.
Well, if you could, for me, with the cursor, show us where the red circle with the yellow circles are on this map as projected in the 2040 plan.
I would say it's somewhere, the red circle is probably right about in here, but the yellow cloud that continues all through here, and things get dicey through here, so that's why it's a search corridor, because there's a lot of preserved wetland in this area that happened when this was approved.
So if we look at the big picture, we're looking at some trails over there, and we're looking at a big park going in there.
Correct.
Neighborhood park, I should say.
Yeah, I can just pull that one back up
Which
too.
is down off of Fenway, right, where the trail corridor chain thing is? Is that correct?
Yes, that's what I'm referencing, the yellow cloud.
Yeah.
Yellow.
So if we looked at the yellow cloud,
So that's just to the west.
Yeah, let me pull that one up.
I was just looking for that other map. I have to do a better job when I print my stuff out.
Whoops.
Single paged.
Mm-hmm. That's what I get for trying to save paper.
But even on that, Jack, on that development, if they crossed over, so you have the sidewalks coming out to Fenway, and on the east side you have that trail that would go right to Fenway Park. Then we have the new trail connectivity that goes through the woods. And then on that,
Let's see.
on that left side,
Would have been in here.
that'd be sidewalks or something coming out, so everything would connect in that way, I think.
Well, from
But it doesn't
Fenway,
loop back around.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
This one.
but from Fenway, you can go
include-
past the service center and the
Right.
library and
And
connect
connect
with the
there,
trail.
off of Headwaters too.
Yeah, I have it.
But if you were coming back, if you took you could go Fenway over to Headwaters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Onto the Red Lane,
The Hardwood Creek
the
Trail.
Hardwood Creek Trail. And then you can't loop back around. And so would there be an option to exchange that, to basically make our connection down here by the cloud?
The connection would be the roundabout at Headwaters. Right?
I mean, there is currently a trail here that extends to, this, I think that's Falk Avenue right there, current ending of Headwaters Parkway.
But if you went further south, you know what I mean? If we went down further south on, I should really know what that red line is because we lived off of it.
Well, if you go south of 202nd and then you come to the next intersection where there's a light that goes back past the Patriot Bank and you can kind of go along the south
Yep.
end of that development.
But would this be an opportunity to take us down into Hugo and then connect back through?
Well, you could loop the south of 202nd with loop, or you can take Hardwood Creek all the way down to Hugo.
Yeah, yep. I just was wondering about, you can take it down and then turn around and come back.
Down and back, yeah.
Would this be an opportunity to connect and loop it back? That's what I was wondering. If there would be a land exchange in this area where it may make more sense to do the land exchange, to give you the loop to connect back around.
Are you looking at looping in Hugo, or are you looking at looping up by Headwaters?
I was thinking a little further south, but. But it sounds like wetlands would be an issue and utility lines would be an issue there. And we can't really exchange
Yeah.
wetlands.
And did I understand that that isn't developed yet, so we really don't know what would be in there is down in the left bottom where we'd want to be doing the loop. We don't
Yeah.
know what that property's
Yeah.
going to look at. But good thought to keep always looking for them. And maybe it could happen depending on the use of that property.
Well, I can't take credit for the thought. It was a citizen suggestion, so.
You passed it on.
So there is going to be a trail on the east side of Fenway from this new development up to, running up to the Headwaters?
Well, definitely for the, the width of the property being developed. The city would look for, a connection to the Headwaters Parkway Trail.
Okay. So start.
Is that on the, sorry, Donovan, can you repeat that one more time? Is that on the west side or no?
On the, on the, that'd be on the east side, on
Okay.
the project side of Fenway. That's approximately, this, I think it's probably about 1,300 feet. Is that right? 1,350?
1,300 feet,
Donovan, does Fenway go all the way to County Road 4? Will it go all the way south?
Does Fenway?
Yeah, does Fenway Avenue go all the way to County Road 4?
It looks kind of like the end of the known world down there. I mean, I haven't driven the road. I mean, there's a muddy path.
Right.
It's not really,
See that come.
I wouldn't really call it much of a road.
It ends, yeah.
I guess I was just thinking, if in fact it does, yeah, I haven't been down that area for a long time. It used to be dirt, but, that'd be where you could loop then. You could take Hardwood Creek all the way down, go west on Ford, then go back north on Fenway and come back.
So put it on the west side. Have your
West side.
loop on the west side of
61.
of 61.
Yeah,
Okay,
you come down Hardwood Creek, roundabout at 4, go west.
Okay.
1 mile,
Okay,
and then
yep.
go back north on Fenway.
But wouldn't that all have to be tarred? So
Yeah,
you're
it
looking
would-
at, I think
You're
you're
right.
looking at way, I think it's
Down the
past the
road.
2040 plan.
At least going
Could be.
towards it.
I don't know, but
Not
well, I mean,
today.
it's, as part of this,
no.
I think for the purpose of this discussion, or
Fenway's
are we
gravel
looking
from
just at that?
190th south.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, with the adoption of this comprehensive plan update, for the first time, the city is saying, yes, we'll extend water and sewer to the southern city boundary. So it's never really been possible before, so it's not like it's suddenly gonna open up the floodgates of development, but because it hasn't happened before, it is part of that, the function of this, it just wasn't any kind of future land use plan.
Any more discussion on this one? Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to follow staff recommendation and accept the $42,500 to meet the project's parkland dedication requirement.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Okay, I think we are on to tree lighting ceremony.
We actually have one more regular agenda item that was added, which is the
That's right. It was
the
change to hours.
Changed
Yes,
hours.
I apologize.
So it's
Jack.
because this was added, I know that in the past, we've altered our meeting times in June, July, and August to a 5 p.m. start time. And that is to allow commission members to attend Arts in the Park. So with that, I believe Commissioner McKenzie, if you want to share what you're thinking on this, if you're looking to implement this effective in May, or is this for the summer months? With that, I'll turn it over to the commission to see what you
Jamie, what are
anticipate.
your hours typically here?
8 to 4:30.
8 to 4:30, so you've got an hour and a half break there before this meeting starts.
There's some time between that I continue to work through at that point.
Well, I'm just thinking on your behalf, and also that a few years ago, we were very successful in starting at 5 o'clock instead of 6, and I think that even went a little bit beyond summer months for a while until our liaison said that he couldn't handle it because he was driving in from St. Cloud. And I was just curious if we could potentially test the waters of a 5 o'clock start time going forward with the May meeting and see how it impacts everybody's lives. I don't know what our other commissioners' employment opportunities are, or that would impact their being here at 5 or 6.
That's fine.
Five's 5 with me. It worked well when it was 5 before. But people change, so.
Yeah, I'll be willing to test 5.
So are you making a motion?
I think that just the one comment too is, I know we don't get a lot of large attendance at our meetings on a monthly basis, but then, there would be, just if there would be any potential work conflicts, if we're needing to allow that, but otherwise, 5 o'clock has worked well over the summer months, and I think, if it works for commission members and our liaison, who unfortunately had a different commitment this evening, but I think it's something that's worked June, July, and August. It is beneficial for me to get over to the park as soon as I'm able to on Tuesdays during Arts in the Park, so.
Would it be wrong to bump the open forum to a set time, say 6:30? I mean, if they only come in and visit for 3 minutes and we really don't act upon any of the discussion, then that would give people the opportunity to show up.
Yeah, I think, it's very rare that we do have members here for the open forum, and if we do keep them limited to the 3 minutes, we're probably talking 10 or 15 minutes of our meeting time if we do have anybody here, so I think keeping it where it's at is fine.
Okay.
But we could add, to your point, to accommodate those who do want to speak, we could also, if needed, have that as an update at the end, or add that. We couldn't be open to
Agenda for that night.
adjusting that.
May I ask
Diane.
who's the liaison? I did hear it one time, but I forgot.
Kathy Bystrom.
Kathy Bystrom. Okay, good.
So I hear Tim saying you'd be willing to test it
Well,
because you're the one that
I-
has a
I'm-
commute.
I have a commute and young kids, so for picking up from daycare, but I certainly, should I just make a motion?
Sure.
I would make a motion that we accept Jack's change of time to 5 o'clock for the summer months and revisit after, let's say, September.
So effective next meeting in the month of May through September.
Yes, ma'am.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So the May 21st meeting will be at 5 p.m. Okay. I'm gonna do a better job reading when I write things into the agenda,
Oh,
Jack.
no,
I
no,
apologize.
Commissioner, you're fine.
I apologize. All right, now we are on to the tree lighting ceremony, which was a document that was given to you, set out in front of you.
All right, so this is where we're now converting into discussion items, so I'm not looking for action on this item tonight. It is just to discuss amongst the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission members. There was not any information included in your packet tonight. I did include just a single sheet printout. It's two-sided. One side just has a little information. The other side is a flyer from last year. I'm just going to pull this up here on my computer, but last year the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission hosts an annual tree lighting ceremony down at Lakeside Memorial Park. For the past 3 years, we've held this on the Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend, which put us at Sunday, November 25th of last year. Our event ran from about 3 to 5 p.m. And at this event, just for those who aren't familiar, if you to get updated, we do have hot chocolate. We have some cookies provided. We have Santa and his helpers. We have different programming up by the tree as part of our festivities leading up to 5 p.m. Where at 5 o'clock, we then do the lighting of the tree to kick off the holiday season and light up the community. So with that, I was recently approached by the Masonic Lodge regarding this, as they had held a first annual event last year, and they weren't aware of the tree lighting ceremony, so they actually had planned it on the same day and essentially time as the tree lighting. So their event, you'll see the flyer from last year, was November 25th from 1 to 5 p.m. And how they structure their event is very similar to what we're offering at the park. What they do, I'll just kind of talk through their little process, is it's free and open to the public. Families are welcomed in. They take a register, you sign in and give your family name. They actually bake fresh hot chocolate chip cookies. So by the time they sign in and get situated, they've got fresh chocolate chip cookies. There's hot chocolate and coffee available. And then what they do is, while they're waiting, children get a card that they can color, and it's a letter to Santa. And then families are called one family at a time to visit with Santa for some pictures. The Masonic Lodge offers to use individuals' cameras or phones to take the pictures, so they're leaving with their family photos that they can do whatever they want with them. From there, the families then, I think that's all really the activities they currently plan, but it gives them that one-on-one experience with Santa and just a lot of similarities to what we're offering. So the Masonic Lodge is starting to plan for this event again for 2019, and just wanted to at least touch base with the city and Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission for discussion. Is this a partnership opportunity? Is there a way to work together and lead, there's some flexibility? Do we form a partnership in this and combine resources and lead up to the tree lighting ceremony, where we do, shorter programming at the park and light the tree? So this is a preliminary discussion. If there's not that interest in working together, and we think it's just important to have our own standalone event at the park and continue the programming that we've built, that is okay. They just we wouldn't schedule our events the same day. So with that, if there's any questions, otherwise I'm just opening it up for discussion on any initial comments or thoughts. And I know that from a timing perspective, the Masonic Lodge just would like to nail down their date in the next few weeks. So it's really, again, no action, but just looking for some feedback.
I think it's a good idea. I mean, the more you get people involved, empower the people, rather than, the city always having to lead the charge. I think it's a great idea.
Where is the lodge at in relation to the park?
It's probably within, it's just off of
8th Avenue,
It's right
8th
down.
Avenue.
It's a ways up around the corner.
behind
So
behind C. Stewart's.
Yeah.
Okay.
So relative, within a mile or a mile and a half at the
Eight
most.
blocks.
My concern would be, Tim, that the Masonic Lodge is only so large. And it would be hard for me, I'm trying to always think I wouldn't be taking my children, but my grandchildren. So it'd be hard for me to go inside and wait, and, there'll be quite a waiting line for, I would think, a personalized picture and have the cookie and color the picture. And then have enough interest for them to want to go outside into the park for something. So and I know you had really bad weather last year, so I really copped out. I only went at the end, sat in my car. But we've had so much activity down there and drawn such a crowd. I'd hate to lose that crowd too by putting inside, but maybe they're thinking of coming outside. Are they thinking of still having it in their establishment? Or
I think that they are looking to continue what they put
They
forward
were
last year. They said that there really was a nice, from the conversations I've had, there's been a nice flow to the event. I did ask about capacity. They said about 100 or maybe a little more, because I also think of that as well. You don't want just like a line out the door and then people are waiting in the cold anyhow. So there could be some challenges there. But thinking outside of the box, is there kind of a pre-register, and there's, 1 to 5 is a pretty long time. There's some options, could we work some things out where you register in advance and this is when you show up, or how do we get them to the park then? You don't want to miss the tree lighting part at the park, which is important. So there are things we could probably think about, but would it be taken away from the event that we have?
One thing because when we talked about this before, I was kind of thinking this might be a safety issue and kind of hokey, but if you had people that had, whether it's hay wagons or wagons and tractors or, horse-drawn trailers or whatever, if you could transport them, say, from the Masonic Lodge down to the tree lighting. There was somebody who was talking about doing like sleigh rides and things of that nature. Made me kind of think about, I don't know if there's people around that would have a trailer, or, you think about all the trailers that are in the parade. If somebody had a, flatbed trailer, and you could just haul people down that way. I'm not sure where the liability lies, but there's probably a pile of it.
Mm-hmm.
I am familiar with other similar tree lighting events where they do, it's maybe a little bit in closer proximity with some indoor space to their outdoor programming, but they also do have tractor hail bay rides throughout the community. So, one idea is maybe we keep the focus of what we're doing, but maybe if you want, then, kind of to your comment, to elaborate, maybe it's rides over to the Masonic Lodge for the Santa experience piece. And I know we've had a good experience at the park with Santa. You do run up with the dark, it gets dark and there's the lighting. So if people are looking for that cute family photo with Santa, not to say that they're not outside, but they're pretty bundled up and whatnot. So that could be an idea to consider. And keep, everything at the park. Otherwise, and maybe elaborate with a bonfire and just some other things to keep people warm and engaged. Because we do have a lot of nice programming that takes place.
Well, and I would think you have more than 100 people involved. If the capacity is 100 people at Masonic Lodge, I would not want to, again, limit the community because of space.
Well, you do it for 4 hours, so people come and go.
Yeah.
But it's kind of nice to have 2 separate functions for different days, and for families to maybe go to both, or if they can't make one, they can make the other. So I would think having them separate makes some sense.
I like seeing them together if there's a way to coordinate it, just again, because of, if you think about kids being outside, kind of to Karen's point, it was really cold. And when it's really cold, you get your kids bundled up and then you can't really enjoy it because it's so cold, or you want to get in and get out right away. So would this allow us for some more flexibility for maybe people in the community that they don't have the luxury of being able to drive to Maplewood Mall or somewhere else to be able to see Santa, where it gives them the opportunity to have that photo, but also not frozen outside. So if there is a way to balance it where they can enjoy both, strategically thinking about how you would orchestrate it.
Didn't you have fire trucks give them a ride, as I remember, down at the park? Well, who gave them, or somebody gave them a ride? It was maybe.
Right, so ours is more time sensitive in the fact that it's right after Thanksgiving. We've had it the Sunday after Thanksgiving. I think attendance has been well. It does pose some challenges for sometimes staff and others in the community who may have traveled out of town for the holiday, Thanksgiving holiday. But really, we'd be kind of locked into either that Sunday or the following, just because we do need to light the tree for the community for the season. Right now, the Masonic Lodge is penciled in for December 1st, which is, I believe, the week after Thanksgiving. So right now, if we would move forward in our own event, the Sunday of Thanksgiving again, they would be scheduled for different weekends at this time based on what they're planning.
I would hate to see if it's a challenge for staff to be there where you guys can't enjoy your family over the holiday Thanksgiving weekend. I would hate to see us prevent you guys from being able to do that for a 20-second flip of a switch. So I think if we don't coordinate it, maybe we could take into consideration a date change as well, which would allow you guys to enjoy your holiday weekend like we do.
Yeah, from a staff perspective, set up Sunday, earlier in the day, so it does shorten a weekend if you're out of town or traveling, which can be the case to see family at times. So, returning on Saturday evening to be ready for the event done.
How long have we had it on that day?
2 or 3 years. We tried about 3 years ago. The chamber, the change was made to that Sunday of Thanksgiving as we wanted to try Small Business Saturday. We actually tried Small Business Saturday, and that didn't go very well. Businesses really weren't open that time anyhow. So then we just moved it to the Sunday of Thanksgiving, and it's been that way for a couple of years now.
Yeah. Well, it's still just discussion tonight, right? We can go
Right.
and
Yep.
talk to people
Yep.
and find out, or think of different ways you could combine them. Right now, my thought would be the same, that I prefer a lot of events to be able to choose from rather than just one day. And if Santa does come to Famous Dave's and a number of other places in our community where it would be inside, just for conversation to think about that. But
So it sounds like if they're penciled in with December 1st and they're going to move forward regardless, I think we can provide that feedback to them that we're going to do a little more evaluating on our end of if it's a partnership opportunity or not. We don't want to hinder their plans, so they can continue to move forward with that. Save the date at least of December 1st from 1 to 5 p.m. and we'll circle back within the next few weeks with a little more information, but they can move forward with that date and we'll adjust accordingly.
Would you prefer not to have it on the Sunday after Thanksgiving?
Sometimes if it's an annual thing, I've made it work and it's fine, but I am shortening my holiday weekend to be at the event, and that's part of my job and responsibilities. So, I'm fine with accommodating that if that's what works best.
now you make us feel bad.
I don't like that. That's just my personal opinion. I don't like that because I know I get to enjoy a longer holiday weekend and I don't have to travel anywhere.
I was going to say, I don't get to go anywhere. I kind of look forward to it.
So
I'm
yeah.
here waiting.
When do we shut off the lights on the tree?
When do we shut them off?
Yeah. Do we have 4 weeks that we keep the lights on and then they're off?
We keep them on for, I would say through, I don't know the exact date with Public Works because they manage that. I think somewhat depends on weather, but it's at least through January or into February.
Oh, golly, I didn't know if that.
Do you want to have a
think it
shut-off
is.
party?
Well, I was gonna
Say
say.
goodbye
if
to
they-
Santa?
If they're shut off Christmas Day, hey, let's just extend it a week and give you an opportunity. Let's just
Yeah.
juxtaposition everything by a week or two. But if it's through February,
Well, and another thing, I don't know the long-standing history, and maybe Commissioner Moorhead might, but I don't know if it's ever been like a weeknight, or if it's just, a short program or event. Is it something that we do on a weeknight at, when it's dark? I don't know. Maybe there's an opportunity to think of, would that make sense or not, without having
I
fully thought
remember.
that through, but I don't know if it's ever been.
I can't remember it ever was, but I know we had a shortened event before. It's gotten longer and added more things. We tried light up parade for the little ones to come and you try everything, and in some years it's a success and some years it just bombs out. You just don't know. Weather plays a big part.
Weather is a big factor. I know with the wind off the lake, it was really cold last year. It was really cold.
Jamie, is there a way where we could do what we've done with some of our, like on the Nextdoor app and Facebook, kind of do some polling around this? Would you prefer a partnership or would you prefer a standalone? I don't know, just to get some community feedback on this one in the interim.
Yeah, I think we can explore that and see what people are thinking. I know that December, because it's a busy time. Once you hit those weekends in December, there's a lot of activities that happen, and there's benefits to that because you can pick and choose or go to multiple. What works best for your schedule and whatnot. So, I know the later you get into December and closer to the holiday, it gets really busy for people. So. I think that's why we've had it when we've had it, or that first weekend in December, because it just gets busy. So,
I'll just ask a question. I don't know if this is gonna go well, but what if we changed where the tree lighting was?
where were you thinking of?
Right here? Have the tree out here? And then we could accommodate for weather, and they'd be right across from the Masonic Lodge. And then it would give
Or we
the
could
government,
host
it
it
would
in
be this,
here.
it would be, the lighting would be here, which would show people could come in here, there'd be plenty of room.
That's not such a horrible idea.
have the ceremony here and still have the tree there for those who are traditionalists. And, well, they're both lit up at the same time, but this is where people throw the switch.
So when you're coming down Broadway, you don't see that beautiful tree at the end?
No, you'd have
Oh, you
that
still have
tree.
that tree?
Yeah, you'd have
And
that tree,
another
but
tree?
this
And
is,
another tree
this
here?
is the
Oh, and another
ceremonial tree.
Yeah.
You're saying 2 trees?
2 trees.
Oh.
Yeah, because, and then partner with,
Wow.
I kinda like that idea.
2 trees, 2 parties, this is getting to be big time stuff.
Well, there wouldn't be a
Welcome
party
back.
down there. That would just,
No, I'm going to the
Just be-
Masons.
Yeah.
yeah.
Interesting concept, and my initial thoughts is that something that, talking to Public Works, we'd have to elaborate on that, of if it's a permanent tree up at the city center for the whole season.
Now, that tree has been there for a long time.
So we did purchase a new tree because that one was becoming,
We got a new tree?
we do have a new tree, and we have a new tree coming this year, because the one is past its life expectancy and was becoming more of a hazard than anything.
Wow.
So we do have a really nice new tree going down at the park this year, so that's kind of fun and exciting. So it's just a conversation to see, what that cost would be, what kind of tree we would have here, because those big trees are, can be expensive. We purchased it when they were on severely clearanced in February, so we did hit a sale for that. But it is a good thought, because I do like having that indoor opportunity.
So is this something that the Program and Events Committee could take back under consideration and work on and bring something back to this group?
That would be wonderful.
Taking
If anyone
into
else has any other.
consideration the feedback that we've had so far tonight?
And that committee would appreciate any feedback from now till, they meet again as well.
Yeah.
That's fine.
All right, can we move on to the staff updates, which is the Lakeside Memorial Park project update on that?
Yes, let me just pull this up here. So this evening, we also have just as a staff update for me tonight, thankfully I just have the one. It's the Lakeside Memorial Park project. Couple things, just that the equipment at Lakeside Memorial Park did sell on govdeals.com. The auction ended April 8th, and we ended up receiving $1,435, I believe. And again, that also saves the removal cost of the city having to pay to remove that. Some planning and logistics with the buyer to get into town and remove the equipment. So been communicating with the buyer, Themed Concepts, city staff on what's the best timeline to limit the amount of time we're shutting down that play area. So we are looking at about May 1st to start coning off that area, the playground area. Orange fence will be put up by Themed Concepts. City staff will begin the removal of mulch shortly thereafter. And the buyer is going to be in town to remove the equipment starting May 6th. I'm trying to pull this up here, and having a little glitch here. But so basically the long story short on the update is that May 1st through hopefully the end of May, the whole project will be complete. So it's obviously I can't control the weather, any other unforeseen things that might come up, but we've planned it out pretty well that from when the playground is removed, then the surface work, prep site work will begin, followed shortly thereafter by the concrete slab being poured. Once that settles, equipment will be installed, and then the request for surfacing, they're putting on May 28th, so it takes about 3 days to pour the surfacing, and then just a few days to let it sit. So that's the timeline we're working with. Hopefully the month of May. I have Themed Concepts drafting a under construction sign to show a picture of what we're doing, kind of explain the project, why it's closed, when it's closed, and then it'll be secured off at that point in time. So just so you all know, about the month of May essentially we'll be in that transition period of taking out old and putting in new. And then in the near future here, once we kind of get this going, we can start talking about a grand opening kind of event for that. I can email you the detailed timeline if you guys want to follow that, but that's just the update of where we're at in that project. Any questions? Concerns?
It'd be nice to see the timeline if you wouldn't mind emailing it to us.
I will.
It's progress.
Yeah, and keep the weather in mind.
And a group bought it, you know?
A campground in Ohio.
Wonderful.
So
my.
they are making arrangements to fly in with staff and come in, and they're renting equipment in town and a truck in town, and they're gonna take 2 or 3 days to take it apart and drive it back. So,
Wow.
yeah, they're excited about the opportunity to have that. So,
Awesome. Any questions on that topic?
I imagine you've got pictures of the proposed park?
I do, and I know I owe that to you.
Okay.
I don't know that I can pull it up here and show you shortly after the
Don't
meeting.
take their time now, but
Okay.
just sometime we can get it.
Yes. Okay. And that's all that I have for updates tonight.
So I know the Program and Events Committee has some updates. Do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
I'm ready.
All right, you start.
Okay. So let's see, the Programs and Events Committee met, and we're working on a project to develop sponsorship for Arts in the Park, and we're working on selected areas for vendors to be, some being more preferred rather than others, and some different scheduling to try, one, have selected areas and kind of qualified areas, but also to maybe spread it out so we have, rather than lumped into one area around the food trucks, expand it out towards the lake a little bit more and have more vendors coming in. Also going with music into September to, again, accommodate vendors and have more people coming down there, because it gets to be kind of desolate after the music stops, so we'll extend that. Let's see, what else do we have going on? Sponsorship. Is that it? Did I miss anything?
Yep, all the bands are scheduled, and Jamie's notifying the vendors for Arts in the Park of their status, and so it's all pretty much, once that's done.
Yeah, I just had one comment on that too. We talked a little bit, there's a handful of vendors that have been attending the event for several years. Some examples just being like a chiropractor company, Renewal by Anderson, just some more retail business-driven businesses. And so we, as a committee, have decided that they will be accepted into the event as a vendor this year again, just following the suit that's been taking place. But we have let them know that we are developing the sponsorship opportunity for vendors for them for next year, so that next year they would be more of a considered sponsor of the event and not an actual vendor selling product, because they don't necessarily fit the commercial products, meaning they're selling goods at the event, similar to handmade items, farmers market. So there's a handful of them, and a couple of them are interested in seeing the sponsorship opportunities for this year. So I'm working on getting them some information, but we are going to transition that to that approach for next year.
So we also have park cleanup. So the city is going to partner with the Forest Lake Lions to sponsor a park cleanup day. So that's going to be Saturday, April 27th from 10 to noon. We'll meet at Lakeside Park, and then volunteers will be given their park assignment and a little checklist and bags and gloves, and go out and clean their park, and then come back to Lakeside Memorial, where the Lions will pay for a lunch for all the volunteers, so we can have lunch together. That'll be rain or shine. We have 20 community volunteers who have volunteered either through Forest Lake Happenings. We posted it there, and then we posted it on Nextdoor. So between those two, we have about 20 volunteers, and that does not include NLA as well. So they will be sending some students over too. So we've got a pretty big group. We'll figure out how many, and then we'll assign them parks. And we've got a little checklist that they can look at so they can tell us if there's some issues in the parks and stuff. So if you guys aren't doing anything on April 27th from 10 to noon, we would love to have you at.
Do you have to sign up, or can you just show up?
You can just tell me if you want to show up, and then it just gives us an idea for food, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Be there. Hopefully, maybe I'll get Belts Park. Maybe. Doesn't matter to me, but
Make note, Karen gets Belts Park.
I will unfortunately not be there.
All right.
I'll be out of town until that Sunday, so I wish I could make it, but.
I'll be there.
Awesome.
I want to be there, but
I'm out of town.
Mr. Steenblock, are you in town?
Am I gonna be here or not?
do you have a preference on parks? You just speak up now. No, don't speak up that one. Speak up another one.
I'll be attending and hope to capture more, be kind of a floater and go to different parks to capture some pictures, keep track of what people are doing, and so we can get some marketing and PR pieces of that as well. I'll have a couple extra helpers.
There you go.
Yeah. We'll give them low spots.
So Spring Fling, do you want me to start it? Do you want to take it, Tim, or?
Let's see, Spring Fling. So, again, we're kind of in a quandary about the Easter egg hunt and trying to maybe change that to something different. So we went with the Spring Fling and setting it up here, kind of by the fire station, and being able to use different aspects in and out, petting zoo, things of that nature. I think we got a magician and a couple other things coming up. Are we all set, or do we still have pieces coming together?
So it'll be on May 11th from 10 to 1. We still have pieces to come together, but as Tim mentioned, this will replace the Easter egg hunt because it allows us to create kind of a repeatable event that doesn't need to be canceled or moved because of the weather issue, which has been kind of an issue with the Easter egg hunt over the years. And it gives us, using the city center here, it gives us that opportunity to have both indoor and outdoor pieces if we need to. It also provides a larger block of time So the Easter egg hunt is pretty much done in 5 minutes.
5 minutes, yeah.
This provides a larger block of time with a variety of different events for people to participate in. So as Tim mentioned, you know, we're looking at something like bouncy houses and looking for some community volunteers to do some, sponsor some arts and crafts activities. So we've got one that is looking at providing a biodegradable and dirt and a seed, so kids can at that station plant a seed. Another community business is looking at an arts and crafts, so it's still to be built, but it would be May 11th from 10 to 1, and that, like I said, will replace the Easter egg hunt. If we would have had the Easter egg hunt, it would have been this past weekend, and it would have been another chilly, kind of messy,
Snowy.
snowy, figure out what to do. So hopefully this will, like I said, be something that's repeatable that we can do every year. And
Terry, what'd you say the hours were?
10 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Why does it say 2:30 to 5:30?
Because we originally were looking at April 27th from 2:30 to 5:30, but then we got some feedback from some of the groups that we reached out to see if they would have an interest. And there were 5 other activities on the 27th for that age range. So that's why we decided to push it out to May so that we weren't conflicting with some of those activities. So
And you changed the time because of?
we changed the time just because we were thinking that it wasn't too early, but it also allowed some kind of mid-time, and if there's naps that need to occur, they can still nap. It doesn't disrupt dinner. So, you know, we'll have a snack option at this event, but it kind of falls nicely after breakfast, before-ish, nap-ish time. Good, we thought good time of the day for those reasons.
And I did confirm too, I know at the last meeting we talked, as we were talking about this, Commissioner McKenzie had the big truck event idea that is taking place, and I believe it's May 4th, so it's the weekend before at the Hardwood Creek Library. So the city does bring our vehicles out for that, but that is the week before, so not in confliction with our planned event. And I don't know of any other events that weekend. I do know it is Mother's Day weekend, but generally I think that's more of a isolated day that people celebrate. So I think seems like it's in a good position. And we have some of the key items solidified, which is, I think, the petting zoo. We do have the option for pony rides given this new date change. And like Terry said, just some confirmed activities and looking to expand that a little bit more.
Is Magic Normal set too?
He was unfortunately the one conflict. I do have some other children entertainment lined up. There's Bear in the Bubble guy. He does like the ginormous bubbles and lets kids make the bubbles as well. There's Vicki Joan, the Rainbow Lady, that does storytelling and balloons and things like that. So they just kind of walk around at the event. And so those are substitutes at this point for now.
And then we'll be reaching out to some additional businesses and trying to see if they would be willing to either make a donation or make a donation and sponsor a station. So for example, maybe we have jump roping and that business mans the jump roping and gives away a jump rope, or hopscotch and they give away a piece of sidewalk chalk, or straight scotch. Yes.
I'll sponsor that booth.
So more to come, but
You know, I know Big Apples has volunteered their coffee and bagels, but it seems like 10 to 1, there could be a lot of hungry folks. Is that going to be enough, or how much are we expecting? He's going to be the only one to provide that? Because I don't know.
I think that's a good for the group. Now, Karen, you are part of that events committee officially tonight. So I think that might be a good group discussion to figure out how much and what additional we might need for snacks and refreshments. So we can continue that piece of it, but evaluating. I don't think the goal is to necessarily have to feed everybody, but making sure that they have something as a snack. But there are some opportunities we can still look into.
Okay.
The more the merrier, I guess.
Right.
Chili cook-off. Chili cook-off.
in May, maybe.
It could snow.
Oh, you never know. Anybody else have updates, committee updates?
I
Or?
have a quick couple of items. Our objectives state that we are to be a premier recreational destination for parks, trails, and lakes. And that's the only time that lakes is mentioned, so otherwise it turns into parks, trails, and open spaces. But since we are lakes, I'll give an update on one of our lakes. Clear Lake is going to be conducting a whole lake treatment for Eurasian water milfoil this summer. And we've gotten grants from Washington County, and our members have contributed significant amounts of their own funds to do this. We've asked we are going to be asking the city of Forest Lake for an increased amount this year. But that is an eradication program for milfoil in our lake. So that's one of the ways we're trying to keep it a premier recreational resource. We're also doing a 3-year carp removal program funded by the Rice Creek Watershed District, and with volunteers from the members of the Clear Lake Association helping in that. So the purpose of that is to improve water quality over the next 3 years. This is the second year of a study that we've conducted with the University of Minnesota Carp Solutions in Rice Creek, and so this is the year we start removing. So that's my update.
Great.
It's a big update.
I think it was brought up at the city. I think it was brought up at the city. They seem to be in agreement. What do you think?
We'll close the loop on that, but I know that there's been conversation, I believe that there is funding available in a lake improvement fund that I'll follow up with on.
I have an update too, in front of all the commissioners. We have an envelope addressed to you with regards to an opportunity with Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District on April 30th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. in the evening.
You can have Mr. Steenblocks and
You
we'll
can have-
share.
We'll share.
When we met the other day, I think I gave you.
Oh,
It's going to be a wonderful opportunity to learn about our watershed, and I invite everybody to
put it on my
attend and
calendar already.
participate. It's going to be at Forest Hills
Yeah.
Golf Club in their new restaurant.
Awesome.
it's on my calendar.
Looking forward to seeing you, because you're invited.
I was invited and forgot about it already once it's on my calendar.
Anybody else have updates?
And on the maintenance update, we're gonna get Tim and Jamie and I to kind of go through a few parks to look at the mulch, see if we have to move mulch from one park to another, and we'll be doing that here in the future.
I was just going to mention, I think, a big thank you to Jamie and the city council for the allocation of funds from the general fund. So there was a transfer of $208,837 from the general fund to the park dedication fund for payment towards Fenway, which is great. March 19th, we voted to approve Bolton Mencken to do the Belts Park assessment that we talked about and work earlier. That was a $25,000 investment, and council made the move from the general fund into parks to pay for that as well. So thank you, Jamie, for making the recommendations, and thanks to city council for making the moves.
You're welcome, and I think just excited to see how those funds relieved from our debt to Fenway can really impact future development. And I think we talked about it a little bit more, but I think it's a good time for the commission to really say what is it that the community needs, and really in regards to recreational amenities, even if it's something that may not have been considered in the past or has been a roadblock in the past. I think, it's a good time to really start projecting forward as our debt fund is dwindling down and we have some funds available. So I think it's a good pivotal point for the commission along with the strategic planning session. So I'm optimistic for some continued improvements in the next period here.
A little history again. I was telling Jamie I will never ever be apologetic for getting into that in the first place, because Fenway is definitely one of our most premier areas. And the city, everyone at that time was very much in favor of it, even though it was going into quite the debt. But housing just went after that, and the greatest laid plans didn't turn out. And so all my years on the park board, we were paying that back and having no development really come in. It was really a hardship, and it always was hard. When I heard that the other night at the meeting, I thought, oh yes, that's going to be taken off the ledger sooner than later now, and we'll still have that beautiful area that has been such a boom for our city, and still does draw so many people to it. So in some ways, I suppose I should apologize for putting it into debt of one of the people that did, but not when I see what we have there. So.
Well, I think I'm happy to report with the recent payment we received, I believe we're down to about $175,000 owed.
That's amazing.
And new in the year, I think there are still a few. We just approved 2 payments tonight, and I think there's a few others in queue. So I think, I'm optimistic that maybe by the end of this year or early into next year, we could be debt free on that loan. So that'd be pretty exciting.
That'll be very exciting.
Yeah. Progress.
Yeah, the
We'll have to
15
have a mortgage burning party then.
Yeah.
for sure.
All right, the only other update was that we talked last time, Jamie applied for the grant with Washington County for the bike racks and the maps. And we did not get that grant, but such is life. And that's one of the things that the financial committee, we talked about looking for grants, that committee taking a look and identifying some grants that we could apply for and some awards that we could do as well that showcase the parks and the work that we're doing here. So we'll just keep plugging away at that.
And with the grant piece, I know that we also at our last meeting talked about the Blue Cross Blue Shield Catalyst funding grant. The first deadline was April 12th. I did not rush to get an application in. I know we had some ideas on that. That should be opening up again in June, and we'll have about an 8-week time frame, so a longer period to apply, and that's for the 2020 project. So I'll resend that out to people if you have fresh ideas, but I think that's going to be a really good opportunity. I think the amount funded is about $25,000 to $30,000. So just kind of keeping that on our grant radar of that's a good one to apply to, and that'll open again in June, and it's a 2020 project. So we'll want to capitalize on that opportunity. So.
Awesome. Anybody else have updates? Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn? Or?
Move we adjourn?
Second.
We have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.
Nice job.